Hi, welcome to the next video in this photo collage all about the elements and principles. So this is about what your collage should look like at this point. We are going to get to something like this. Okay, so to do that we need to start placing your photos and adding the text. So at this point you should have taken all of your photos. You should have taken one photo for each of the 8 elements of art and each of the 8 principles of design. So hopefully you took at least one photo for each of those, but now we're going to start putting those all together into this collage that we started making. Right now it's pretty boring, but in just a few minutes it will get pretty cool. Okay, so to place my first image, I'm going to go to File, Place Linked, and then I'll just navigate to wherever my images. So that is my image. I'm going to go ahead and hit place, and it sort of temporarily places it into the document. And as you can see here, part of it's covered up just because the layers that contain these squares are above the layer that contains my image. So it's simple ordering of your layers in your layers panel, which is not a big deal. What I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to size it down to get it to approximately the size to fill one of these squares here. It is super duper super important that you press and hold the shift key while clicking and dragging from a corner. Make sure you do those things. So press and hold the shift key, click and drag in from the corner. If you don't do that, you will distort your photo, and very few photos should be distorted. It's only in a few rare instances where you're doing that to achieve some sort of artistic effect. Other than that, we don't want our photos distorted. So if I press and hold the shift key and I click and drag from the top, I still can distort my photo, right? I need to press and hold the shift key while clicking and dragging from a corner. Again, I cannot stress that enough. Press and hold the shift key while clicking and dragging from a corner. Okay, so my image is about the right size, and I like that position right there. Obviously, I have some extra going off the edges, but that is quite all right. And actually, I'll show you what that actually looks like. Right now, it looks like it fits nicely in there, but it doesn't. So that's actually what that looks like. So this is my image that I'm going to use for my balance square. I want this image to only be in that balance square though. I don't want it overlapping either of my other images on the other sides. And actually, if we zoom in a little bit, I'm hitting Control plus on the keyboard, Command plus on mine, but it goes into the next square on all of these upper squares here. And I don't want that. I want it to stay just in its own square right here, and that will be the balance square again. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this image into the right group. So you should have created a group for each of your elements and principles. There are 16 squares, 16 elements and principles. Okay, this image needs to go into my balance group. So all I'm going to do is click and drag this down till I find my balance group, and there it is. So that's my group right there. If I just place it like that, that'll just put it into that group. If I place it right in or right at the top of my group, then it will be the top layer in that group, which is exactly what we want. So it kind of looks like it almost solved my problem right there, but again, when I zoom in, I can see that I'm getting this image spilling over into my other squares a little bit. And again, that's not what I want. So to solve that problem, I have a really easy solution that is really super handy. I'm going to press and hold the Alt key until my cursor changes. So you'll see right now my cursor has changed to that little arrow pointing down and that white square. So I'm just going to click right in between there, and my image is now clipped to that square. So unfortunately it wasn't this square, it was that square, which is not a problem at all. All I need to do now is I need to move something. So right now my image of my dirt road is clipped to this square, which is this one actually up here. So I need to either move my image up there like that, or I need to move this square and swap it out with this one. I think my simplest solution would be to move my image up there. And so that's what I just did. It might take a little organizing on your part to get everything exactly where you want it to be and make sure everything stays organized. It's not really that complicated. It just takes a little bit of time. So the other thing I'm going to do right away while I'm working in the square is I am going to label this. So I choose my type tool, and then you can choose a font. And actually you can download a new font if you want to. The website that we use a lot is dafont.com, dafont.com. So you can go to that website and find a font that you like and download that. If you need permission to install that on the laptop that you have for this class, go ahead and email me and I'll get you that password. It's pretty simple. Okay, so I have some fonts that I like that I've downloaded. So I'm choosing one of those, and I will just go ahead and click and drag out a text box, and in that text box I will type the concept that I'm illustrating. You can align it left, center, or right. And then I'll switch to my move tool, and I might move that text around. I could put it up. I have good contrast here on this image, but some of my images might not work out that easily. Okay, so there is my first one, and as you can see over here, I have everything nicely in my group. So this is my balance group. At the top I have my text layer. In the middle I have my image layer, and at the bottom of that group I have my square. That's the order that you need to have all of your layers in within each group. So I'm going to go ahead and collapse that group. That one's good to go. I actually could hide it if I wanted to, or whatever I want to do. Okay, let's go through that process one more time for one more photo, and then you can go ahead and do that on your own. So File, Place Linked. We'll go a little bit faster this time. I will navigate to a photo that I want. This one will work. I'll hit Place. So I don't have mine labeled. You probably have yours all labeled, right? It temporarily places that in there. I'm going to resize it right now. I'll just get it down to approximately the right size that I want. This is going to be my Unity picture, so something like that. I'll hit the Enter key on my keyboard, or the little check mark that was just up there. Right now I will find my Unity group. So I'll just scroll up here in my Layers panel, and it's right down there. And again, you can increase the size of your Layers panel. That way you can see it more easily, or see all the layers within it. I will click there, and I will drag it down into my Unity group directly above my Unity square. So right now my Unity square is that one directly below my balance one. So my image is almost in the right spot. I will click and drag that up so it covers that square, and I like that sort of cropping just like that. Okay, now I need to clip my image to my square, so press and hold the Alt key till my cursor changes. My cursor changes when I get in between my two layers. So right now I'm pressing and holding the Alt key and nothing is happening. I'm just going to move my mouse up until my cursor changes to that arrow in the white square, and I will just click there. No dragging or anything like that. Just click in between the two, and now it's clipped to just that square. So my image is actually still editable. I can still move that around, and I could even resize it if I wanted to. I could hit Control T on my keyboard for free transform, and I could resize it or whatever I wanted to do. I'm going to undo that. So it's still editable, and it's nice. The way we do this is nice and flexible, so I can always go back and make any changes that I need to. So my Unity group is almost done. I just need to add some text to it. So again, my type tool, and I will click and drag out a text box, and then I will type in there Unity. So notice I have a little bit more of a contrast problem with Unity than I did with Balance. Balance stood out enough so that I could read it. Unity, if I move it over here, I'm able to read it. If I move it up here, I definitely can't read it. So make sure that your text is placed so that you can read it. One thing I could do to increase the legibility of my text would be to simply change the color of it. So I can double click on the big T thumbnail in my layers panel, and then come up here and change the text. Hit OK. I can do that. So notice I'll switch to the move tool so you can see that. So I could do that. I'm going to hit Control Z on my keyboard, Command Z on mine, to undo that. The other thing I can do to change the way my text looks is I could come down here and hit this little FX button and choose one of these. It doesn't really matter right now what I choose. Mine is over to the side so that I'm able to see what I'm working on. Let's see, inner glow is probably not the best one. You can do a color overlay right here. So right in here, it works kind of the same way as changing the actual color of the text. So you can choose that color that's in there, or you can go ahead and find a different color and hit OK. Notice that I am only able to change the options for my effect that I'm adding when it's highlighted. So right now I could add a stroke to the outside of my text, but I'm not editing the stroke until I click and highlight that effect. Okay, just FYI. So right now I could add a stroke, which is that little outline around my text. I could increase the size of it. I could change the position of it so that it's outside my text rather than inside. And I could change the color of it right here. Okay, so that does not look great, but I wanted to show you how to do that stuff. So maybe mine is probably okay, just as is, white when it's over here. But you have those options there, just FYI. I'm going to cancel that, but you, again, you can go ahead and do that to your text if you need to. So the text placement and color and everything like that is up to you. If you want to keep everything very similar throughout all of your squares, you can. You can keep the alignment to the bottom right for each square if you want to, or the top left, or the center. Just make sure that all of your text is legible. You can mix it up. I think I would have mine, like if you look at my other example here, it's not consistent. I have some of them in the upper right hand corner, some in the upper middle, some in the upper left. You can move that around. That is up to you. If you want to keep it consistent again, you can, but you don't have to. Okay, so going back to my original one, I'm going to just double check that everything is in the right order, and it is. I have my text, my image, and my square. So that's exactly what I need. And that is all we are going to cover in this video. In the next video, we'll cover just a little bit more. Let me know if you have questions.